Hi everyone, my name's Michelle, and this is my first video that I decided to upload on YouTube. I've been watching a lot of other people's journeys on trying to conceive their first child, second child, a baby in general, and I've found that a lot of their stories and their videos have really helped me um, get through my own struggles and the journey that we've been on. So I decided that I would go ahead and make a video. I've had this really yearning feeling to really share our story, and especially people around us, like our friends and family, they obviously already know, and I've been very open with our story, so I decided that I would go ahead and start a channel. And I'm hoping that someone out there who's searching through YouTube for videos that can help them to, help them feel better or give them the support they need to feel like that they're not alone and that they can get through this, that would be my ultimate goal, I guess. So, to start off, my husband and I, we got married in August of 2014. We had a big wedding the following year in 2015. So our first year, we really had no plans on trying for a baby. We had no plans on trying to conceive. I was still on birth control, and not until after our wedding in August of 2015 is when we decided later on that year that I would stop birth control. I really wanted a chance for my body to kind of wean off of the birth control. I know that a lot of studies and doctors say that there's no real, need for that to, take time to get your body to normal or whatnot, that you can literally get pregnant right after you get off birth control. But I just, for my own personal reasons, wanted to just kind of give myself and my body some time. I had been on birth control for many, many years. So we decided to get my IUD taken out in December 2015. And then the doctor at that time, they told us to wait about 3 months for us to really start trying to have a baby. So we didn't really try until, well, into kind of like the first of the year. So it probably was about May. My May cycle is when we really, started trying. I decided that I was going to do the ovulation test kits and track my ovulation and do temps and all that kind of stuff. So May was the first real cycle that we tried. We didn't get pregnant that cycle, and then that cycle went into June. So then June cycle came about, and that was the first cycle that, with all my tracking and things like that, that everything really lined up, and I had a really good feeling that we could get pregnant. So we indeed did get pregnant. So I ovulated sometime around July for that cycle. I think it was about the 15th. I date tracked everything really closely. So 12 days past ovulation, on July 27th, we took a pregnancy test and it came out positive. We were so excited. It didn't feel real, it didn't feel real because it was so early still, 12 days past ovulation. And so I quickly called my doctor and set up all the appointments for our initial ultrasound, dating scan, and all the exciting things, So where I live, our doctors don't really see you for a normal, healthy pregnancy until you're about 8 weeks along, because they say that if you come in sooner, that they can't really guarantee that they'll see anything, and they don't want to scare the mother or the patient if they indeed can't see what they're trying to see. So I would have been, the day that I went in, I was almost 9 weeks along, and unfortunately that scan showed that our baby had stopped growing at sometime around 6.5 weeks. So there was no heartbeat either. that was devastating. We were so, so excited to go in for this first appointment to see, our baby and the little hands, the little fingers and toes that it would have already, and especially the heartbeat, but we weren't able to see that. So that was devastating. We were sent home and with a follow-up appointment to confirm what was going on, and we went in for that appointment, and they did confirm that it was a missed miscarriage because the baby had stopped growing at 6.5 weeks, and I was already about 9 weeks along. And by the time our follow-up came around, I was already 10 weeks along, and I had no indications, no warning signs, no symptoms that I was miscarrying the baby, that the baby had passed or anything like that, which was another really hard thing to go through because, as women, you trust that your body would let you know if something was wrong, and when it doesn't, it's quite cruel and devastating as well. So my body just continued to carry on as if the pregnancy was still viable and it was ongoing. So pretty much I had to get a D&C. So they scheduled me for a D&C. I was going out of town, so we really had to kind of get it in before I was going out of town because the ultrasound at the follow-up had showed that the sac was just deteriorating, they said, and so I was in the early processes of miscarrying on my own, but it just wasn't progressing quickly like it normally would, I guess. But really, what's normal? No one knows what's normal. So I went in September 9th for my D&C, and it went okay. I thought that I would break down and that I would just lose it, but I didn't. I had a lot of time to process a lot of the raw emotional devastating feelings kind of earlier on when we were kind of trying to confirm and figure out what was going on. So after the surgery, it was actually pretty okay. Like, I felt fine. I had no pain, no cramps. I had a little bit of light spotting, bleeding a couple days into it, or after it, I guess. And then everything just kind of went back to normal. Somewhat. I still had waves of nausea here and there. And it just took a long time for my body to recover from the miscarriage and the surgery, because I hadn't realized that when they tell you anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks is when you should ovulate again and get your new period, your new cycle should start. When you go for like almost 10 weeks, it's kind of alarming, it's worrisome, and that's kind of what happened to me. So I started tracking my ovulation again shortly after the surgery, and things were kind of all over the place, and I had read a lot of research and articles online that said that your first cycle after your miscarriage is just not normal, not your ideal, well, obviously not your ideal, but not your own normal cycle. So things were all over the place. My temps were all over the place. My OPKs were all over the place because I would get several positives. And so I decided to take a pregnancy test, and it came out positive as well. And initially we were really excited because we thought we were pregnant again, but come to find out that it wasn't. We had gone out of town again on vacation, and all throughout that time I was getting these really light, faint, but the same intensity of faintness for almost like a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And as soon as we got back into town, I went and got a blood test, and they said that my HCG was still up at 10.1 or something, which is odd. So I went in for a follow-up blood test after that. It had gone down to a 5.9 or 5.7, something like that, and then another follow-up, which they confirmed that it was technically a negative at a 4.1 or something like that. So in my mind, I was worried that we got pregnant again and we're losing another pregnancy, but then at the same time, it really just didn't make sense how things were in that first cycle afterwards. So I kind of chalked it up to it being that maybe there was just a little bit of residual pregnancy tissue left over in my uterus that was producing the HCG, which makes sense with my waves of nausea that would just kind of come and go. And it was, my HCG level when I first went in for my first ultrasound appointment and blood test was a 91,000. So for that to come down to 0, I guess it could take quite a long time. So they say if you're further along in your pregnancy, when you miscarry the baby, it takes a longer time to recover and a longer time for that HCG to come down. So I had just kind of gotten closure that, that was what was going on, was that there was just a little bit left over and my body was just taking a longer time for it to recover from that miscarriage. So since it was at a 4 point something, which was technically negative, then I had expected my period to start soon after. So when I got my pregnancy test, my positive pregnancy test after the DNC, that was about that 4 week mark. And so now a few weeks later, I was nearing almost like 9 weeks. And I was just getting kind of worried because I still was getting really, really faint positive pregnancy tests, which they say, it's almost impossible, or it is impossible to get a false positive. There, a lot of times women get false negatives because they test too early, but there's rarely an occurrence of a false positive without a pregnancy occurring. So that was worrying for me too. So I finally went in for another follow-up, and my doctor, she checked my cervix and did a pelvic exam and said that she suspects my period is actually starting. So it was good news. Sad news because we got a positive pregnancy test, but it wasn't actually a positive, which kept us kind of still confused, till still now. Like, both my doctor and I don't really know what happened. It could have been a chemical pregnancy at some point, or it could have just been my body still recovering from the miscarriage. But I have had my first official cycle since the surgery and the miscarriage, and right now we're kind of waiting for ovulation. So this will be our first cycle trying after, and we're really hopeful. I am eager to get pregnant again. This was our first pregnancy, our first miscarriage, and so I've had time to process everything and be sad, and I still, not a day goes by. I mean, every day I think about some portion of part of our baby and the miscarriage and our future plans and things like that. But, I just really have to stay positive, and I have found that these videos with other women's experiences with their miscarriages or their journey to pregnancy and baby had really helped me. So hopefully we'll get pregnant soon. I'm not really sure how I want to go about this video-wise. If I just want to do this one and done video type of thing, or if I want to document our journey from here on out. So we'll see. But keep us in your thoughts. A lot of women on here say a lot about baby dust and sticky beans and things like that, which is really cute, I think. So I'm hoping that we will ovulate soon and we'll get pregnant soon, and maybe I'll do a live pregnancy test. But until then, I hope this video is helpful.